Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are going courtside, right into the complex, high-pressure world of elite sports officiating.
But not your average NBA game, right?
Not at all. We are peeling back the layers on wheelchair basketball, or WSB, and we're using the extraordinary career notes of a Turkish international referee as our source material.
And this deep dive, it's less about the stats and more about the human side, the psychology, the logistics.
Definitely.
The sources you share, they're almost like a memoir. They give this incredible look into the pressure, the super niche rule book, and the surprising amount of international politics involved in getting to the top.
It's a sport they call the locomotive branch of disability athletics for a reason.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to really understand what it takes to officiate at that level, technically and professionally. But we have to start with the origin story because it's pretty ironic. This career almost didn't happen.
That's maybe the most compelling part.
Yeah.
His first love was traditional, running basketball.
Right.
He started officiating back in 1994, rose pretty quickly to C classification by 96. But then by 1998, the schedule, it was just too demanding with his main job. It just wasn't sustainable.
And the real sour note, the thing that really pushed him away, was the administrative mess.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about being incorrectly blamed for a Kuril Hatasi incident. That's a critical rules violation that happened in Konya.
And then he found himself being made the scapegoat for a bunch of losses for the KSK team.
He was just tired of it, tired of his integrity being questioned.
So you can imagine, when a colleague suggests in 1999, hey, why don't you switch to wheelchair basketball? His reaction was, well, it was pure cynicism.
The quote is fantastic. He says, "The tekerde sanitishim, toptakshimdi de teker lexlimi olukas."
It was basically...
We're doing wheels, brother. We're about balls, now we're doing wheels. Just total skepticism, a burned-out attitude.
But he realized his mistake pretty fast. That one decision, it completely changed his life. He says WSB literally opened up the world to him.
He officiated in, what, over 20 countries?
Over 20 countries. And his rise was incredibly fast. He becomes an international ref in Bosnia-Herzegovina in 2002. Then, by 2003, he and Sava Serdar are among the very first Turkish referees invited as neutral officials. That's a huge sign of global trust.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, especially if you're trying to learn the sport. You watch WSB for the first time and, it looks familiar.
Same court, same hue plate.
Exactly. But the sources are so clear that the chair changes everything. The physics, the rules, all of it.
That is the critical distinction. The rules have to adapt to make it a genuinely level playing field. And the number one difference, the thing you have to understand first, is the classification system.
This is the point system, right? To manage fairness between athletes with different physical impairments.
Correct. Players get a point value. From 1.0 for the most severe impairment, someone needing a lot of core support from the chair, all the way up to 4.5 for the least impaired athlete.
And the rule is that the 5 players on the court,
Their total points can never exceed 14.5.
I never thought of it this way, but that makes the referee a kind of human calculator. You have to track that balance in real time.
That's exactly it. This isn't just a pregame check. You're monitoring the 14.5 limit during every single substitution, every time out.
Wow.
It adds this huge layer of complexity that it doesn't exist in running basketball.
Okay, so let's talk violations. What's the WSB equivalent of traveling?
It's called an illegal driving violation. And it's all about how many times you push the big wheel rim without doing something with the ball.
Okay.
A player commits the violation if they push that rim 3 consecutive times
3 times.
without bouncing the ball, passing it, or shooting.
So push once, push twice.
Yeah.
But that third push without touching the ball, that's a whistle. Simple concept, but I bet at game speed, that's hard to track.
Extremely. And then the contact rules are even more challenging.
Yeah.
Everything happens, as the source says, on the ground and with the chairs.
So you have to look below the waist.
Constantly. And the fouls require this really nuanced judgment. It's almost a physiological awareness.
What do you mean by that? Judging the contact based on the player's classification.
Exactly. A bit of contact on a low point player, someone with a heavy impairment, less core stability, that might be judged way more severely than the exact same contact on a high point player.
Because the low point athlete is just more vulnerable to tipping over.
Precisely. And the referee has to account for that. You're part ref, part, biomechanics expert.
Okay, now for the really advanced stuff you pointed out, lifting and tilting, they sound similar, but the penalties are totally different.
They are. Lifting is the serious one. That's often a technical foul.
And what defines it?
It's when the player's hands are not holding the chair and both rear wheels lift off the ground at the same time.
So you're basically using the chair to cheat your height.
You got it. Gaining any kind of vertical advantage is huge. So if that two-wheel lift gives you an edge on a shot, a rebound, an interception, it's a technical foul. You're penalizing them for artificially elevating themselves.
And what about tilting?
Tilting is different. That's lifting only one rear wheel or just leaning way over to the side.
So that's not automatically a foul?
No, not by itself. But it becomes a foul if you tilt and then use that tilt to enter an opponent's space, their cylinder. The complexity of just those two violations shows you why WSB officiating is such a specialty. You have to be watching the chair just as much as the ball.
You see, mastering those rules, that's the foundation. But the sources show that once you have that down, the real challenge becomes psychological, not just technical.
Right. And the sources give this amazing psychological framework for how a ref matures.
It maps the whole journey.
It starts where we all start, really, in ignorance.
Yeah.
Stage 1. Unconscious incompetence, or as they call it, Siyershi modu.
Spectator mode.
Spectator mode. You don't know where to stand, what to call. That brain-to-whistle connection, it just isn't there.
And if you can get past that, you get to stage 2, conscious incompetence.
The Gurmo ama kalama modu.
Seeing but unable to whistle mode. This is so relatable for any high-skilled job. You see the mistake, you know the rule, but your brain is just too slow, the whistle comes late, or not at all.
And that's where most people must quit, right? The frustration of knowing what to do, but not being able to execute in the moment.
It must be immense. But if you push through, you hit stage 3, conscious competence. Now you're managing the game. You're making the right calls, but it takes all your focus.
The correct call becomes a deliberate reaction.
A reaction, not an instinct. The final stage, the elite level, is unconscious competence. The Gurme visas memudu.
At this point, the mechanics are automatic. You see the foul instantly. But your whistles, now they're selective.
You're choosing which calls best serve the flow of the game.
You're managing, not just reacting.
Which leads us directly to the most controversial idea in the whole thing. The argument that a great referee should be biased.
I know, that sounds completely wrong. The job is to be impartial, so how do you justify choosing a side?
It sounds like it risks making you the story, right?
But the source clarifies it. This bias means you support the team playing with the spirit of the honest game.
And you proactively stop the other team from gaining an unfair advantage through illegal force or fouling.
So it's a bias toward the integrity of the game itself, not one team's colors.
Exactly. And that distinction defines the difference between what the source calls a smart referee and a good referee.
Okay, break that down.
A smart referee, according to this, avoids the big game-changing calls. They plan every step like a chess player to protect their career.
So they're self-serving?
Yeah. They might even use players or coaches to their own ends. But the sources say you should choose the path of the good referee.
And the good referee.
They take responsibility, they make the tough call in the final seconds, they act spontaneously like a backgammon player, and they're still fundamentally an amateur, just in love with the job.
So let's make that real. A potential game-winning travel violation, 2 seconds on the clock. What's the difference?
The smart referee sees it, but it's borderline. So they swallow the whistle. They're thinking, if I call this, the home crowd will go nuts. My evaluation gets dinged. They're protecting themselves.
But the good referee sees the violation change the play, so they make the call. The correct, potentially career-risking call. Because their duty is to that moment.
It's a powerful ethical choice. And what's so ironic is that once you get to that top level, the assignments start to depend on things that have nothing to do with the rule book.
That's the bitter truth of it. The importance of lobbying, of language skills. It comes up again and again.
Our referee notes he got invited to the Good Luck Beijing Games, a huge career step, mostly because of the good impression he made just talking to IWBF officials.
And the IWBS is the International Wheelchair Basketball Federation, the world governing body.
Right, so it wasn't just his performance, it was his ability to connect.
You need a foreign language, not just to give instructions, but to network, to joke, to talk politics, to build that rapport. That off-court skill translates directly into on-court opportunity.
We couldn't do a deep dive like this without the stories. The anecdotes really bring the whole thing to life.
They really do. They show the kind of intense focus you need.
Like the Chiamata incident in 2001. The ref gives his cell phone to his coach, and during the game, the screen flashes the Italian word for ringing.
Chiamata.
And the coach, not knowing Italian, just panics.
He starts shouting, Utku, Chiamata is calling. What should I tell him? He thinks there's a guy named Kiamata trying to reach the bench.
I love that. And then there's the one that shows how cultural knowledge is a tool of enforcement, the Majka da Pisca moment.
A Croatian player says this incredibly severe insult to the referee.
Assuming a Turkish official wouldn't get it.
But our ref recognized it instantly. He'd heard it chanted at a Galatasaray football game years ago, so he just immediately hits the player with a tee.
A hard lesson learned on an international court. You never know what the official knows.
And then there's his nickname for himself, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The pressure was so intense, he needed an outlet.
So, super intense ref by day.
And then hits the town hard at night. He used to joke he had an identical twin named Utku who handled the fun part. It just shows that dual pressure, the professional mask and the human need for release.
Stepping back for a second, his whole journey really mirrors the rise of WSB in Turkey itself.
It's true. Before 2001, Turkish teams weren't even in European Cups. No neutral international refs. Now they have 8.
And huge club successes. The sources mention İzmir Büyükşehir Belediyesi being the first Turkish team to reach a big European final with only Turkish players.
Which then fueled that huge rivalry with Galatasaray, who went on to win the Champions Cup. It just elevated the entire sport in the country.
But the global benchmark is still out there. He points to the German city of Wetzlar, a city of only 50,000 people.
And they became the world wheelchair basketball capital through incredible organization, a dedicated fan club, a disabled musicians orchestra.
And, crucially, massive corporate sponsorship. The source notes it was around 1.4 million euros.
That is the aspirational model. It shows what a community can do when it treats the sport as a serious professional enterprise.
So, when you put it all together, what does this mean? The story of this referee shows that you need this dual mastery.
Absolutely. You need the technical skill, knowing the niche rules like lifting and tilting inside and out. But you also need that intense psychological resilience.
The conviction to be a good referee.
And, maybe the most surprising part, the off-court savvy. The communication, the networking. Competence is the entry fee, but connection gets you the global opportunities.
It's a perfect distillation of the idea that technical skill alone is never enough to get to the very top. You need the soft skills to handle the politics and the psychology to handle the pressure.
Yes, that pressure. It's immense. Which brings us to his final, very personal reflection. He looks at all the success and starts to think about the price.
He calls his life an ödünç bir yaşam, a borrowed existence.
A borrowed life. Planned by his work supervisor during the week and by the Central Referee Committee on the weekends.
It's just constant travel, constant review, walking that political tightrope.
And it all led him to question everything. Should he just give it all up? Pursue music or theater or something that was fully his own?
And that's the final provocative thought he leaves us with. It's a question for anyone with a deep passion. When does that passion take over your life so completely that the life you've built is no longer truly your own?